Alright, so we got some new content for you. I'm going to be doing something a little bit different. A little bit of game analysis from the 2019 Florida State Championship. And I want to start it off strong with a game that made a strong impression for me during the tournament. We were pleased to have Grandmaster Bortnyk come compete in the event. And in this game, he has white against one of the strongest players in Florida, Corey Acor, FM. And I was very, very pleased with how Bortnyk did some work. Sorry for the announcements. You know, being at school, you gotta do what you gotta do. And the buses, apparently, it's important. Final call for the buses. Got it. All right. So in this game, I was impressed because Corey's a very strong player. How clinical Bortnyk was in just simple, clean, straightforward chess. And it was just murder quickly. And I felt like I'd identified when looking at the game where it started to go wrong. But the evaluation doesn't really slip until the very end. But Bortnyk was playing at such a high level. It was just a clinical game, and I wanted to show it to you guys. So let's go ahead and get started. Bortnyk started with best by test, 1e4. Acor responded with his typical response against e4. And Bortnyk decided, just get steady Italian game using a certain move order, neglecting knight f3. And this gives black a few more options. So Becerra actually had this position with black in the tournament, another one of the competitors in the event. And he elected for knight c6, followed by bishop e7. Some players like bishop c5. And he got a reasonable game, and I believe he won. And this position was actually played like 3 or 4 times on the live boards. So this was a very, very popular position at the 2019 Florida State Championship. So c6 was played with the logical follow-up that d5 is going to be played at some point, hitting the bishop, gaining a tempo. So knight f3, d5, bishop b3, and bishop b4 check was played in the game, and it's second choice in the database and a very, very reasonable sideline. But the main line with bishop d6 is logical. Just protect the one weakness in the position. Don't get overly complicated. And following the database, we had knight c3, grab, in-between move, hitting the f7 pawn. So black castles. Come back, take the pawn, trade, get your bishop developed. And according to the engine and the database, this is roughly equal. It's a playable position for both sides. White has the ability to grab the bishop pair at pretty much any point in time here, but the pawn structure is solid enough for black that he should be able to hold. Now, that's a long-term suffering type game, and I don't blame Acor for not going into this with, a grandmaster as strong as Bortnyk, because if you're playing in a position with 2 results, they're going to make you suffer. So, bishop b4 is a bit more active. Main line bishop d2, grab. And already notice the developmental difference between white and black here. White's got the 3 moves in. So it's little things. Black gets out of the middle. And we don't want the e5 pawn. Don't want to get in any hurry. And here 2 moves had been played. Knight takes d5 or c takes d5. C takes d5 is an interesting pawn sack. And after a5, a4, knight c6. And it's kind of got the same type of feel as like a tirage. Like you just want the position really open, and you're giving up the pawn in order to get a wicked amount of play. And that's following a game from this year with Wang with white, Bai with black, and probably butchered those names. Like Chinese names are very, very difficult, especially for the most American of Americans, like the deep Southern voices. So I was a draw in that game, which you can check out if you're interested in this line. So in the main game, Corey elected for knight takes d5. After castles, f6, now securing the e-pawn. And black's position is very, very solid here. I mean, white's just got, a booger's worth in the position, but it's not clear how white is just like better yet. H3, and according to my database anyway, this was a novelty. It just hampers black's development just a touch, because where is that light square bishop for black going? It doesn't really have a useful square. On G4, it would have at least harassed the knight on F3, threatening to double the pawns. King H8, a logical move, getting off the pin of the bishop on B3, so now that knight on D5 can move. And this on move 11 is already the critical point in the game, because from here on, it just felt, when I looked at the game on followchess.com, as almost one-sided, which was just disgusting to me, because it feels like black's position should be solid, holdable. He's just a little bit behind in development. But I wanted to show this game to you guys, mostly because, like, compare the two positions. White's developed and good to go. Black's queen side is not. And most of the time in chess, when you're facing somebody who's clinical, if you give them anything, one of the three advantages of chess, time, material, or quality, that's it. And the move that I felt should be played in the position, and white still maintains some edge here, is knight takes c3. Just taking away one attacker and not worrying about things, just trying to stay as solid as you can and hope to get some development and uncoil. Corey opted for knight f4, and he's a bit of a creative player. They were already in novel territory here, so this is him, doing what he normally does, and he's an excellent bullet player. Like on chess.com, I mean, he's upwards of 2,700 most of the time when I see him on playing, so respect. But from right here, this is the moment. And the game only lasts another 11 moves. So that's one of those points. So between moves, this is a stop your video to see if you can find the most critical responses. So right here's a good time to pause if you're working, playing the home game here. And the move for white is d4. And this move seeks to undermine the knight on f4. The e-pawn moves, knight's loose. Simple, effective, clean. Another announcement. Another announcement. So here, he goes, all right, queen e8. He has dreams with the knight on f4, the queen coming over here and having some sort of aggressive attack. This is what he's playing for. Well, the queen, if it can't get this type of follow-up idea, is also now misplaced. So Bortnyk goes, well, I'm going to take away the one piece that you have around my king, very Karpovian style. I'm going to take away the attacker. No real way to handle this favorably for black, so he exchanges off a piece. He goes, all right, and it looks like black's made it out of the weather. So this is another pause moment and try to be critical here. All right, so we got rook f e1. Got to do something. If you take, you're basically either getting mated or losing the bishop. So you got to run or protect. Gets the pawn back. And it feels as if, like when I was watching the game live, I'm like, okay, he's probably okay here. I mean, he's gotten developed. He's holding stuff. But then it shows you, this next move shows you the power of the open file and the ability to, get that hogs on the 7th, because they will eat everything. Bishop f7, critical move. Tickle, tickle on the rook. Rook f8 to bother the bishop, but got our first guy on the 7th. Pressure, pressure, pressure. So notice how every single one of black's pieces is defensively placed. White brings his other rook into the game. Harmony, coordination. So He's trying to get anything going. The bishop has to return home to the starting square. The d8 rook has some light. It's hitting the knight on d4. But bishop e6. Dirty, dirty, dirty. Because if rook takes d4, bishop takes c8. If rook takes c8, rook e8, rook takes e8, rook takes e8, mate. Dirty, dirty, dirty. If bishop takes e6, knight takes e6, forking the rooks. Hitting g7. Your rook on e7 is hitting b7. You're just hitting the world. Weaknesses everywhere. So Acor opted to play c5 to kick the knight, to then try to be able to trade down and get out of this mess. But, I mean, I don't see any options for black. But after knight f5, the engine evaluation was, I think, around piece edge or so. And I do not blame Acor for resigning here. That's a tough one. Because when you play a game like that, you're playing at a reasonable level, you're doing the right stuff, and yet sometimes the other guys just, woo, unbelievable. And Grandmaster Bortnyk played a serious, or put on, I should say, a serious clinic in that game. Very, very impressive. And that was my selection for, like, if we had a best games prize from the state championship. That was definitely it across the top boards. So in next game, we're going to be looking at some of my students' games from the Florida State Championship. And we are not going to be mentioning names or ratings. So makes it kind of more interesting. And also last time I did that, you know, people got upset with me, and I don't want people yelling at me. Like, I have respect for both players in this game, so hopefully nobody's feelings were hurt by me trying to give an objective analysis. All right, thanks.